I say the future is ours. Now look what we have here before us. Nobody is wasting nobody. That is a miracle. And miracle is the way things ought to be. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
We've all heard the phrases, patience is a virtue, and good things come to those who wait. But the best one may be, you reap what you sow, especially when it comes to community development. This work involves a lot of digging, planting, perseverance, and slow growth. But when properly cultivated, you can reap a plentiful harvest able to feed entire communities. But we have to start by breaking the ground and laying the roots. And we can build on the rich history of community development. In the article, The Past, Present, and Future of Community Development in the United States, Harvard University's Alexander von Hoffman writes the following: "For more than a century, American reformers have struggled to remedy the problems of poverty in the places where low-income people live. At first, these social improvers could muster only a few isolated solutions, but by the end of the 20th century, they had expanded their efforts to a large, dynamic, and sophisticated field of action. Today, thousands of nonprofit community development organizations operate in the poorest urban and rural areas of the country. More impressively, they have helped stabilize community life and help individuals and families in some of the most forsaken neighborhoods in the country. The South Bronx, once the most infamous slum district in the United States, has become livable and vibrant. To build a decentralized system of neighborhood improvement and individual betterment was not easy. The community development field had to emerge from the shadow of the top-down approach embodied in the urban renewal and public housing bureaucracies. The anti-poverty crusaders realized that they had to combine a passion for social justice with viable management and business practices. They learned to keep practitioners accountable for their work and to measure their accomplishments. And the movement's leaders had to grow and change, which they did by adopting new strategies aimed at building up the finances and assets of individuals, as opposed to simply looking at the problems of places. But we have to start digging. We have to not only establish the roots, but also be rooted in our belief in a better community. So I ask you, leaders, what is the root of your community development efforts? Now, for me and the Yes Zone, it's the Harlem Children's Zone. Yes, the Harlem Children's Zone is bearing a lot of fruit today, but that small seed of an idea was planted many years ago. The growth story goes like this. Richard L. Murphy founded the Reedland Centers for Children and Families, the precursor to the Harlem Children's Zone, back in 1970. Murphy started the organization because he noticed young children between the ages of 5 and 12 were out on the streets when they should be in school. He began working with chronically truant children and their parents to do something about the problem. This work led to him to start Reedland. In 1977, the Harlem Children's Zone received its first public contract to provide services designed to prevent child abuse and neglect. The program, which was called the Truancy Prevention, served the Upper West Side, Central Harlem, and Hell's Kitchen neighborhoods in Manhattan. Jeffrey Canada joined the organization in 1983 as an educational leader. He was asked to revamp the education program to ensure that children were reading at grade level. In 1994, Murphy left the organization to become commissioner of the Department of Youth Services in the administration of Mayor David Dinkins, and Canada took over as CEO. During the 1990s, the number of children receiving the services quadrupled, growing from 1,500 to nearly 6,000. Jeffrey Canada said Reedland was started to work with the bottom 15% of children in the public schools, kids who were failing and going nowhere, and to get them back to the middle. But as the number of kids in that bottom group began to grow, we realized that we needed to expand our services, Canada said. At first, we would go into a school and find 20 kids that needed help. Then it was 40 kids, then 100 kids. And as the need grew over the years, we decided we had to respond to that need. In 1991, the Harlem Children's Zone opened its first Beacon School, a year-round after-school center where young people between the age of 5 and 21 and their families could access educational, recreational, and youth development programs. The County Cullen Community Center at Public School 194 in Central Harlem was developed into a national model of how a school can support the redevelopment of a community. This was known as the Beacon Preventative Model. The program uses available public school facilities outside of school hours to provide what they call a shopping mall of services aimed at promoting positive outcomes among young people. Beacon schools are based on the belief that if children are to find effective alternatives to violence and prepare for productive futures, they must have access to enriching activities to fill their out-of-school time. In 1998, the Harlem Children's Zone opened the Booker T. Washington Center at Junior High School 54, located on West 107th Street in Manhattan. Also in 1991, they began to focus on the issue of homelessness with the beginning of its Neighborhood Gold program. Neighborhood Gold's work organizing tenants to improve the quality of life in their buildings led to the development of Harlem Children's Zone's community organizing program called Community Pride. Since 1993, Community Pride has worked closely with the residents in Central Harlem to restore their buildings and their block, and in the process, to prevent homelessness. In 1996, the Harlem Children's Zone developed the Harlem Peacemakers Success in Schools program to make schools and the surrounding communities safer places for children. Harlem Peacemakers are college-age AmeriCorps interns who are placed in the classroom of Central Harlem schools, where they assist teachers with lessons, teach conflict resolution in the schoolyard, tutor after school, and work with parents and school staff to create safe zones around schools. In 1997, the Harlem Children's Zone launched its most ambitious effort yet. The initiative created a 24-block area of Harlem where the Harlem Children's Zone offered a comprehensive set of services to youth and families. In the zone, 61% of the children live in poverty, 25% of the adults have a high school diploma, less than 30% of the children read at grade level, and 28% of the children suffer from asthma. Building on the success of their early initiatives, the Harlem Children's Zone launched a 10-year strategic plan in 2000, in which they committed to steadily and systematically expand the depth and breadth of their programming to encompass 24 blocks, then 60 blocks, and ultimately 97 blocks. Today, the organization as a whole serves more than 14,000 youth and 14,000 adults and counting. Yes, leaders, it takes this type of patience and commitment to produce this level of fruit. But the great news is you can do it. You can transform your community into a fruitful oasis of resources and opportunities. Van Hoffman closed his essay with these words: "Today, the community development field stands on the threshold of new synergies, but it also faces challenges as never before. The people in this dynamic industry must apply the knowledge gained through past experiences to new and difficult circumstances. If history is a guide, they will rise to the occasion. And you can rise to the occasion. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it? This is Bobby Taylor, and you've been listening to the Lakeview Podcast.